West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another quick edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and I just wanted to record this little quick one ahead of the two Super 50 semi-finals that are taking place. One, obviously, tomorrow on Wednesday, which will be Trinidad and Tobago versus Barbados, and then the one on Thursday, which will be the Jamaica Scorpions versus the Leeward Island Hurricanes. So we're down to the final four. And this isn't the video to do like a big analysis of, and what have we learned from the tournament? And let's do an in-depth analysis of each team bit by bit. No, that can all come later. We've got lots and lots of different videos that we want to do on Super 50. What I wanted to do with this one, though, is look at the group stage and talk about the top 5 batters in order of runs scored and if they have done enough to force themselves into West Indies consideration. Now, remember, context. West Indies have just come off the back of a 2-1 series win in ODI cricket versus England. And that was a good series win. I think we saw quite a lot of strong performances from the likes of Evan Lewis. Obviously, Shea Hope did his thing. Casey Carty did his thing. Brandon King got a century. We saw Shafane Rutherford got another 50. We saw quite a lot of strong performances. So although I'm looking at the batters in Super 50, we have to be quite transparent at the very beginning and say there's not many, if any, obvious batting spots available at the moment in the West Indies ODI side. But we can talk about if batters have put pressure on anybody in that West Indies ODI side to make sure they get into future consideration. So let's go through the top 5 because I've got bits and pieces to say on them because not everybody's as strong as you think. And I'm not basing it on strike rate per se, although maybe I should. We're going purely by runs scored. So the top run scorer in the group stage of Super 50 this year, pump up your chest, Mr. Amir Jangoo. 430 runs Jangoo has scored in this year's Super 50 Championship. I think he's played 7 matches. Was it 7 that Jangoo played? Or possibly, 7 I think Jangoo played, possibly 6. 430 runs at, sorry, let me get this straight. 430 runs for Jangoo with 103 50s across Super 50. Now, are those 430 runs strong enough for Jangoo to force himself into the West Indies ODI side? No, because there's no spot available. Remind yourselves of what essentially the top 5 is, people. King, Lewis, Carty, Hope, Rutherford. That's your top 5. And there's, with respect of all the 5 batters I talk about, there is no spot available. Jangoo's been batting in the kind of middle top order for Trinidad and Tobago, and there is no spots there. Chase, obviously, go back to the ODI side. Chase is in there 6, Shepherd's in there 7. There is no obvious spot for Jangoo to replace. But should Jangoo be next on the cab rank, so to speak? 100%. And let me tell you why he should be next on the cab rank after Justin Greaves. Last year's Super 50, Jangoo's got nothing. We got no stats to go off for last year's Super 50. But what Jangoo has done is put back-to-back domestic performances together. Lest I remind people that Amir Jangoo was the 4th highest run scorer in the West Indies Championship earlier this year. He scored 500 runs in 5 matches. So I don't need to tell you what the average is. Surely you can count, right? He scored 500 runs in 5 matches and scored 1 century and 2 50s. So across Amir Jangoo's last 12 matches in domestic cricket, or is it 11 matches in domestic cricket, he's got 200 in different formats, 50 over and red ball. He's got 200s and 5 50s. What that shows me is this is a guy who's working on his game, and this is a guy who is showing consistency. And that's all we can ask for. That's all we can ask for. For anybody new who's trying to put their name in the limelight and try to work their way into West Indies consideration, what we want to see is consistency. And that's what Jangoo's shown. He hasn't put 2 Super 50 seasons back to back, but I'm willing to allow that because he's put a 4-day season and a Super 50 back to back. Top run scorer in Super 50, 4th highest run scorer this season in the West Indies Championship. We have to rate it. We have to respect it. Does he force his way into West Indies ODI side at the moment? No. Does he force his way into a wider squad? Yes. Does it mean he should be in consideration for Test cricket going forward? Also, yes. But we have to wait to see what happens versus Bangladesh. In second place, Justin Greaves, 401 runs. He played 1 less match than Jangoo because Greaves had to go and play. Let's go play that down bad warm-up game against Bangladesh, and also Leeward Islands rested him as well. So Greaves, obviously, he made all the headlines right at the start of the tournament. First 3 matches, 300s, 3 consecutive hundreds. He set West Indies domestic history in doing that. So 300 in his 300s in his 401 runs, no 50s. Now, Justin Greaves has gone one better than Amir Jangoo. Hear this. In last year's Super 50, Justin Greaves was the 2nd highest run scorer behind Darren Bravo. He scored 403 runs in 8 matches in last season's competition with 100 and 350s. In this year's West Indies Championship, Greaves only played 4 matches. He scored 280 runs with no hundreds and 350s. So in Greaves' so if we add up his matches, in his last 17 domestic matches across red ball and white ball, Justin Greaves has scored 400s and 650s in his last 17 matches. That's why he's in the Test squad right now. He's in the Test squad as the all-rounder to replace Jason Holder on merit. Obviously, he went to Australia. Gabba Premium didn't help him keep his spot because Holder came back for England. But Greaves is there in the Test squad on merit. The guy has put together 3 back-to-back domestic tournaments with runs upon runs upon runs. He's done all you can do. If Greaves doesn't get picked, then no one deserves to get picked. And furthermore, in terms of who's next on the production line in 50 over cricket, Greaves is ahead of Jangoo. I mean, Jangoo, like I said, 430 runs. Greaves played 1 less match than him, but more importantly, Greaves set history, 300s consecutively. And more importantly, Greaves' position is different to Amir Jangoo. Greaves' position, scoring these hundreds, has been opening. Okay? So if we're talking about the ODI squad, Greaves has put immediate pressure on Brandon King. Now, obviously, King responded with a century in the last ODI against England, so it's probably kept Justin Greaves at bay just for now. But Greaves is ahead of Jangoo, should it be about the order of who gets into the ODI side once a spot becomes available, or if Darren Sammy wants to experiment with anybody in the ODI side. 3rd place in the run scoring chart, Sunil Ambris. In a down bad season for the Windward Islands Volcanoes, Ambris was the 3rd highest run scorer in the championship, in the Super 50 this year. Look at the gap, though. Jangoo 430, Greaves 401, and bear in mind they didn't play all the games. Ambris did. 288 runs for Sunil Ambris, but I'm giving him a bit of premium because he did it in a down bad side. And as usual, Sunil Ambris, high 90s in terms of strike rate. No hundreds, 350s. Ambris was down bad in last year's Super 50, but in the West Indies Championship this year, Ambris was the 9th highest run scorer, 441 runs in 7 matches with 100 and 250s. Sunil Ambris isn't getting into the West Indies ODI side anytime soon. But here's what I do want to say about Ambris. Given that Sunil Ambris has played for the West Indies in the past, with some level of distinction in 50 over cricket, if not in tests, how comes he's never got a look in again? How comes I know people talk about technical weaknesses, playing in front of his pad, and he's a bit loose, but how comes he's in a down bad era where men have been picked, dropped, the same man have been pick, dropped over and over and over again. How come Sunil Ambris never got that? I know certain things went on during the pandemic, which I won't get into, but how comes he's never got a look in again? His name should certainly be in a conversation. Doesn't mean he gets into the team, but his name should be in a conversation. Fourth spot, Leniko Boucher. I feel like Leniko Boucher has been in and about it for Barbados, playing a few games here and there, bits and pieces, but never really playing. Did he play for CCC as well? Never really putting together a run in any one team to justify anyone looking at him too tough. So Boucher is the newest name on this top 5 list, but I'm not looking at it too tough. What I will just say to Boucher is, well done, my you. Well done for getting yourself into the top 5. Obviously, there's a semi-final against Trinidad and Tobago tomorrow, but well done for putting your name up in the headlights, you know, and putting yourself in the top 5 on the leaderboard. No hundreds, 350s, 282 runs. He hasn't done anything else for me to say that he warrants any special conversation, but at least he's put his name up there. So there's certain man whose name isn't there. At least Boucher Leniko has put his name up there for now. His challenge now is when the 4-day championship comes along, you got to do what Greaves has done. You got to do what Jangoo has done. You got to do what Ambris has done. You have to back up one competition with the next competition. And if you can stretch yourself to what Justin Greaves has done, which is do Super 50 good, 4-day championship good, Super 50 good, all the better. What Greaves has done is a challenge for all domestic man. Put together 3 consecutive tournaments. I'm not counting CPL because that's hit and giggle, bat up and catch. Put together 3 consecutive domestic tournaments in whatever format, showing consistency, and we'll start to pump up our chest and talk about you. And then last place in terms of the top 5, Kjorn Ottley, 280 runs, 100, 150. Now, obviously, Kjorn Ottley went to Australia at the start of this year when obviously Desmond Haynes ran style. He ran style upon style upon style on Darren Bravo, said old man can't get picked, then picked Kjorn Ottley, who was 1 year younger than Darren Bravo, right? Now, Ottley went to Australia. Lots of people, ourselves included on CCP, were like, what's Kjorn Ottley doing in the West Indies select squad? He should, like, respectfully to Kjorn, you shouldn't be in a West Indies team, innit? And I'll say that respectfully. But, same metric that I'm applying. In Super 50 last year, Kjorn Ottley was the 3rd highest run scorer. That's why he went to Australia. Bravo was 1, but obviously Desmond Haynes don't like him. Bravo was 1, Greaves was 2, Ottley was 3. He scored 317 runs in 9 matches. Was it 9? I think in 9 matches with 100 and 150. Then in the West Indies Red Ball Championship this year, Ottley played 4 games for TNT. He scored 277 runs with no hundreds and 250s in 4 matches. And he's just done another Super 50 where he scored 280 runs. Nothing too tough to write home about, but with another 100 and another 50. So does that mean Kjorn Ottley gets into a West Indies 50 over side again? No. But I have to respect the consistency. Third highest run scorer in Super 50 last season. 5th highest run scorer this season. We have to be real. That's better consistency than a whole bag of other man. So whether Kjorn deserves to be or not deserves to be in any West Indies select side, he's more consistent than a bag of other man in West Indies cricket. So all these other men who aren't as consistent as Kjorn Ottley, they need to look themselves in the mirror and say, how comes I can't produce like Kjorn Ottley? So none of them can cuss and say, how did Kjorn Ottley get into a West Indies side? Because they ain't producing like Kjorn Ottley. They ain't producing consistently. So, of course, he must get in before you lot. So I say this over to you now, the viewers. That's the top 5 run scorers going into the semi-finals that start tomorrow. Trinidad and Tobago Red Force versus Barbados Pride. Things will change because undoubtedly, maybe Boucher will score some runs. Maybe Jangoo will score some more runs. Maybe Ottley will score some more runs. So things will change. And by the end of the championship, maybe Jangoo won't be number one. Who knows? We'll see. But these were the top 5 at the end of the group stage. In the comments below, let me know, people, who impressed you out of this top 5. We're not talking about other people. I know there's people just underneath them like Kevin Wickham, Matthew Nandu scored bits and pieces. There's a couple man who scored bits and pieces underneath them. Like Wickham may well force his way into the top 5 by the time the tournament's done, and we can talk about him then. But of the top 5 I've spoken to you, of the top 5 I've spoken about, who out of that top 5 do you believe has a chance of getting into the West Indies ODI side? And don't just give me a name. If they're getting in, who are they getting in for? We done know already that Justin Greaves is coming for Brandon King's spot if he gets in. Who can Amir Jangoo replace? Who can Sunil Ambris replace? Boucher, you're not in the conversation. Who can Kjorn Ottley replace? Maybe he's not in the conversation. So don't just jump into the comments and start talking dunce. I'm bigging the 5 of them up. But if they get into the West Indies ODI squad, if you believe they should, who are they replacing? Or here's a little sidebar. Maybe some of you can get in the comments below and say, Mash, in truth, none of them are ready for the ODI team. But a man, because they've been consistent, might force his way into the test team. So if you want to do a sidebar and say none for ODI, but a couple man can come through into the test squad, let me know that as well. I've been Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. It's bedtime, you know, but I thought I'd better just record this little quick one as a bit of a preview going into the semi-finals of Super 50 tomorrow. You done know, people. You can find the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on all handles. It's scrolling below. Find us on X. Find us on Insta. Find us on all of them things. TikTok, Discord, OnlyFans. We're on Blue Sky now. We're on everything. Just type in Caribbean Cricket Podcast into Google and you must come find us. All of the apps, etc., etc., etc. And if you'd like to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. And trust me, we need that support, people. My laptop's broken. You see how when you lot are watching this, you'll notice that I'm looking bare pixelated around the edges. My face, the edges of my face looking mad pixelated and grainy like I've got Santoki's Wi-Fi. I'm on some busted up third-hand laptop. I beg you lot support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast so I can get a new laptop and get a webcam that I can attach to the top of this. We need to up the game. And this busted ass laptop that I've been given can't help me. Come on, people. Support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. Test cricket soon come. Starts on Thursday. The 21st, I think, is the day 1 in Antigua between West Indies or is it Friday? I don't even know, cuz between West Indies and Bangladesh. So we got plenty of content to talk about, etc., etc., etc. Listen, people, I've got to go my bed. Get at me in the comments below. You done know. Like, share, subscribe. All of that. I've been Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. See you all.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.